You may think you've defeated me, Commander, but that army was a tax write-off. Hey there, kiddos, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Uncle Frank. I'm that you are having a great day, and in today's video, I'd like to sit back in my not very squeaky chair, relax, and have a conversation with all of you guys about the concepts of supply and demand. And I'd really like to stress how much more important one is than the other. Now, what the hell am I talking about today? Well, you see, if you explore the various hyper interesting corners of the Verilog car passing through internet, you are going to find people who seem very smart who are adamant about the idea that rarer, scarcer, more expensive, older sometimes, however you want to parse it, that rarer and more expensive items in the world of collectibles, but obviously we're talking about cards today, so rarer and older and more expensive cards are better than cheaper cards. And as a general rule of thumb, that is true. But I find in my experience and in the experience of others I've seen online, that really only remains true up until a certain point. And that point really is what I'm going to talk about here today, because there is a certain price point, a certain value at which it doesn't matter how rare the item is. It doesn't matter how vintage it is. If the market isn't interested enough, it's not going to sell at that price point. And there's a lot of people who get caught up with the idea that rarer items are inherently better as an investment than more common items at the same price point. When there's a lot of factors that really have to be taken into account when you consider what might or might not be a good investment for the long term. And one of those factors that you have to take into account, besides just a load of factors, obviously, playability, history, you know, how old is the card, the art can be a factor, some of the mechanics, the deck, etc. But one of the biggest factors you have to take into account, the biggest factor, I think, is demand and potential demand. And make no mistake, if a card is rare or very expensive, those factors do not come into play. Not even cards, products, sealed products, boxes, ETBs, whatever. If it doesn't have demand, or if that demand is extremely low to the point of effectively being not there, then that is an item you will have a very hard time selling down the road. And if you're looking to be a liquid seller, a flipper, someone who needs a consistent high cash flow, these items in particular can actually be a death trap for you. Let's talk about some examples, okay? One of the biggest ones I can think of, actually, is a product by the name of Magic 30. There are people out there who are genuinely convinced that Magic 30 is one of the best possible investments you could make in the world of Magic the Gathering at the $1,000 price point. And you know what? I hope that they're right someday. Okay? But in my experience and in my opinion, just because it's rare, and it is rare, okay? Magic 30 was not a hugely, massively printed product. It was scarcer than your average box, okay? But that rarity that scarcity is meaningless. And that value attached to it is meaningless because the demand for it is so massively low. Magic 30 is a product that nobody asked for, that nobody really wants. It has such a huge negative reputation attached to it that even the people who might have ostensibly been interested in opening a beta light experience, even at that price tag of $1,000, are kind of turned off just because of the negative association, the negative press, and all the real down vibes that the product itself has. And you can see that reflected in the price tag. The fact that it's barely moved at all. It's hardly budged in the years since its release, and even now it's kind of mocked and seen as one of the lowest points in Magic history. You know, but it's not just things that are hated, okay? Being hated is certainly something, but it's not a death sentence Sure, there could be a time in the near or distant future where, you know, Magic 30 has a turnabout and becomes super desirable for some reason. I can't see what that is, but, you know, it's a future hypothetical for that reason alone. uh, but there could also be cards that are ostensibly really cool that just, at the price tag they're at and for what they are, they just don't work as an investment. As a collectible, these are great. Okay, I cannot stress this enough. What I'm talking about in this video is not about collecting for yourself. I'm talking about if you are someone who's looking to invest in something or who is interested in flipping it for the right price. There are plenty of cards out there that are expensive because they are rare or hard to get or whatever have you. But the demand for them is low, especially for that price tag. One example I like to bring up from time to time is the sweepstakes Blackluster Soldier from Yu-Gi-Oh! Make no mistake, this is one of the rarest cards printed in recent years. It is absolutely beautiful. It is a throwback to the old days of the OCG, the Series 1 look of the cards. It is a reprint of the OG Blackluster Soldier prize card, so it's really cool. And the only way you could get it is through a raffle. So it's rare, it's expensive, it's a throwback to the old days of Yu-Gi-Oh! So it's got a lot going for it. And that's reflected in its price tag. This is a $600+ card in some places. But you don't really see a lot of sales for it. And that's because, while it is cool, you can't play it. Okay? You can't play it. It's not a really rare card. I mean, there's like 2,000 copies out there. So while it's rarer than the average card in Yu-Gi-Oh!, it's not exceedingly hard to find. And more to the point, the amount of people who are interested in a Japanese language collectible for their Yu-Gi-Oh! Collection, it's a small percentage of people out there, right? And a lot of the people who want this card already have it. So the copies sitting out there on the market, they move slowly because only so many people are showing a genuine interest in the card on a day-to-day basis. And that's not to say that the card itself is bad or that it's a terrible thing to collect or whatever. But if you were looking for something to flip quickly, this would be, let's say you buy it at, let's say, $600. So let's say that you buy it at $500 or $540. That's a pretty good place to buy it at, right? Pretty good price to buy it at. You'd have a very hard time actually selling it for $600 and making your money out of that. Hell, even if you bought it at, like, let's say you bought it at, I don't know, $480. You tried to undercut the market by a bit. You sold it for $540. I think even at $540, you'd have a hard time selling it. Just because, again, a lot of the people who already want this card have it. And there's plenty of examples of things like this, like Magic 30, like Blackluster Soldier, where there's different reasons for why it would be a slow sell. I mean, look at the OG dual lands from Revised. The Revised dual lands are the cheapest and most available copies of the dual lands available. And dual lands, make no mistake, are genuinely desirable cards. They are the best lands for Commander. They are a genuine piece of Magic history. They've not been reprinted in any meaningful way since 1994? 95 maybe? No, 94. They've not been reprinted in decades. And they're also very expensive. Hundreds of dollars for these. And because of that, they move. People buy them. But people don't buy them at enough volume to, like, really move markets. So if you're trying to flip them, you got to buy them at a really good price. If you're trying to make money on them, right? And of course, people who are interested in selling them don't really want to sell them for 80% of what their current market is, because dual lands, reserved list, piece of history, etc. Obviously, I'm generalizing a lot. There are people who are going to sell it for a discount or whatever condition and such come into effect. But for the most part, you know, those are slow sellers. There's definitely a point at which rarer and more expensive is good. And I tend to find that that point is between the cards when you comparing them, obviously. Comparing cards in the $200 and under category. After like $200 or $300, I would probably say for games like One Piece and Pokemon. After that point, it becomes exceedingly difficult to move something fast enough for a flipper, in my opinion. Unless, of course, you're at like... Again, this is a lot of generalization, so obviously if you're at a card show, there's things that move a bit faster at a card show. If you're a big enough store with a large enough customer base, obviously that's a difference. But for like the average Joe, the average small-time TCG player, eBay store, small-town vendor, whatever, having a $1,000 card in your inventory to show off in the showcase is really cool. Having a line of base set slabs in your Pokemon shop, those are cool, but they aren't going to really sell anytime soon. They're going to be slow grinds. There's countless examples of cards like this that are really cool to have. Like, you're proud you have them. They're a trophy in your showcase. But that's it. They're trophies in your showcase. They don't move all that much. In fact, you'll find that it can take months or potentially even years for them to sell. And that's not a bad thing. Again, I want to stress this is not a bad thing, but it is something I've noticed. I've seen it at least once where people buy a lot of these rare, expensive cards, especially dual lands, thinking they'll be able to quick flip them for easy cash. And that's just not the case. You will be saddled with those products and cards for a while. And again, this is a lot of generalization, a lot of me saying, hey, there's going to be different situations, but you'll find on average, demand really does play into it more than supply. Yes, rarity matters. Yes, perceived value matters. But demand is important too. Look at two products of the similar price ranges. Pick Spider-Man collector booster boxes and any other booster boxes for any other TCG that's at the exact same price range, and you're going to find the other thing's probably going to have a better time selling percentage-wise. Maybe that's a bad example, because Spider-Man still sells. Force of Will boxes don't sell that well. Well, doesn't matter. If you find an item that has genuine demand at its price point of $200 or $150 versus an item that's been sitting at $150 or $200 for years with very little interest, one of them seems like the better option. So there's more to take into account than just rarity and value when you're looking at items on the secondary market, or when you're considering what to pick up from collections or whatever have you. So I suppose at the end of the day, all I'm really trying to say in this video is be mindful of demand, not just supply. One of these matters a lot more than the other when it comes to being liquid. And just be careful. So that's all I got for you kiddos today. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment down below if you agree with me, disagree with me, think I'm crazy, or whatever have you. I'm still getting over being a bit sick. Check out the Discord, check out the Patreon. Let me know what your favorite card game is, because I don't think I've asked that question in a while. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.